Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Up with Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, this is it. This is, we've been waiting for this for 4 years, and we had that an extraordinary election night in many ways. Donald Trump was re-elected, the 47th president of the United States, very early. It was so we were all expecting this is going to be long, protracted days
Yeah,
and
because
weeks,
we
weeks.
believed all the BS that we
Yeah,
were.
that's
Yeah.
right. But it was really early in the morning, East Coast time. Trump was declared the victor, and as of this moment, as we're recording this conversation, it's looking like he has won every single one of the battleground states. He won the Sun Belt states. Arizona is still up in the air. But he took Pennsylvania, he took Wisconsin, Michigan. It looks like he's going to take Michigan, and then there's still Nevada. But his odds are pretty good for taking Nevada. So he swept the board.
And
Um,
and I think just on the
yeah,
back of what you just said, George, is that as of a few hours ago, the term the Democrats' blue wall, that has been retired. It doesn't mean anything
yeah,
anymore. We don't need to use it anymore. It's gone.
it's gone. It's gone. No, you're absolutely right because he did it in 2016. So he's done it. He did it again. So an extraordinary win. He could possibly win the popular vote. We don't yet know, obviously, because they're counting the votes in California. It's a voter-rich state, so it's possible that Harris could win the popular vote. But at this stage, he's comfortably ahead on the popular vote.
In many ways, everyone, I'm not looking for exceptionalism in, making, applying different rules. But, California is a very populous state. It is a one-party state.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It's the Communist Democratic Party of
Right.
California. In a way, it doesn't count to me. If you take California out of it, it's extraordinary, his popular vote victory. Extraordinary.
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
it,
Exactly.
it's
Yep.
breathtaking. It's
Yep.
the first time we have to kind of harken back to like if you look at the diversity of the people that voted for Trump, you have to go all the way back to 1960. I mean,
Right.
this is
Right. No,
so
we,
unprecedented in so many
we
ways.
that's right. We're going to look at that because I think it's very interesting that the strategy that Kamala Harris and the Democrats
But what was it, George? I'm really curious.
well,
What was
it is very interesting. They calculated, and it's very similar to the strategy I think of Hillary Clinton in 2016, that the suburban women, are going to come out for her, and that somehow whatever she loses in the black vote, particularly with black men, where she did poorly. And again, that was a problem with Hillary Clinton. Whatever she loses there, she will gain with the women, and that didn't pan out. I mean, she did win among women, but it wasn't sufficient not in sufficient quantities to make up for the shortfall among men, among black men
and
in particular,
and
Hispanic men, and we'll look at that.
a corollary to that is, and George and I talked about it yesterday, is the day before yesterday, is that the Dobbs decision wasn't the poison
No,
callus
no,
that
that's right.
yeah,
Exactly.
I admit I
But
waited.
well, obviously, because that's what everyone was talking about. That I thought, well, okay, that's what
It wasn't a poison chalice at the end
no,
of the
no, it didn't. So that's it. Now, before we get, look at the numbers, which are kind of interesting. We should say what a staggering failure this has been on the part of the Democratic Party. Now, and I kind of wonder because you and I talked before about the possibility that Biden would be bundled aside and Kamala Harris will be inserted as the president. I still think that could happen. That
not
there's still a
impossible.
couple of months to go, and the Democrats, who I think are really angry about what
Oh,
happened, and
oh,
they're going to blame Biden for this.
one thing I think we will get right. I missed a lot of things. I'm completely honest about it, but I still think this is the beginning of something, not the end of something, because these people have a lot of nasty tricks up their sleeves.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. No,
I
and
just a couple of observations before we go into the minutia here. Number one, and I messaged this to you earlier today. I get a real chuckle out of the fact that Biden is
Bookended.
bookended by Trump.
Right.
Okay, so here's this old man. He's like Trump, Trump. Okay, which
Sure.
means he's going to go into oblivion. This is going to be a void.
Well, you know,
This will be remembered only because of Ukraine
Right.
and because of Gaza. That's what he.
you're right. I think he'll be it's a disastrous presidency as we were documenting over the past 4 years. But he, in his own mind, to the extent that he has a mind at all, he will say, "I'm the only man who has ever beaten Donald Trump." That's what he'll say. You know, everyone else, all the Republicans who ran against him, every single one of them lost. Two Democratic Party nominees lost against him. I'm the only one who beat him. And it's like people. I'm the one man who beat Muhammad Ali. Well, okay, several people beat him, but it's something that you could go to your grave with. And I'm sure that'll be his consolation prize. His problem, though, is that the Democratic Party machine will be really angry with him because they will blame him. Somebody has to get the blame.
Somebody's going to get the blame.
Yeah, has to take the rap for this. And it ain't going to be Pelosi, and it ain't going to be Obama, and it ain't going to be Chuck Schumer. They're going to say
It's going to be black men let us down again.
yeah.
Okay, the irony of that. Just listen to that. Okay, they think that they belong on the Democrat Party's plantation. Well, they just took a hike. Okay, so I mean, even their own rhetoric gets inverted against them here. And a couple of observations here. Kamala Harris didn't better Joe Biden in any
No,
count.
no, we're going to look at those numbers.
Oh,
I've,
okay, all
I've
right, all right.
prepared
All
some
right.
of those numbers.
A
Exactly.
couple, another meta thing. Now, this is kind of my big picture hours after the event. We had Lyndon Baines Johnson overtook the New Deal. I mean, there's still a mixture right there, but we had a greater intensification of nation building is what the Great Society was all about. I think it was essentially a catastrophe. Okay, and the seeds of what we're experiencing right now. Then you have Bill Clinton with the New Democrats. That's crushed the middle class, and that was like the tombstone on the middle class. Okay, and the disastrous policies not only destroyed working class, middle class, but started eroding away at the upper middle class. This is where panic starts setting in. Donald Trump, of all people,
Right.
every time I'm not a big booster, he has put American liberalism on ice.
Right.
Because as I wrote to you, I guess it was very, very early this morning or last night, I think it's fair to entertain that Trump probably won 2020. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I mean, because the popular vote. I mean, you can do all the 270, all the past the 270, which is you have to because that's the system here. But the popular vote is telling us something much more, much bigger.
You're right, and I think that what's the interesting thing is that his vote, the numbers today in this election, very similar to the numbers he got in 2020. He's now currently at about 71 million, and according to the numbers for 2020, that's what he got. He got about 74 million. So it's comparable. About
George,
similar.
when
But
you
her numbers are dramatically down. Biden supposedly got 81 million. She's down to 65, 66 million.
I'd like to meet the 81 million.
Yeah, exactly. Where is that 81
Where
million?
are the 81 million? Again, you do the math, everyone, and that's when you scratch your head. And it's like, come on, this doesn't add up.
Right. No, exactly. That's exactly right. Now, but then you have to think this Donald Trump is truly a remarkable being. Remember, he was impeached twice. Then he has four sets of criminal prosecutions. He's got a sentencing hearing on November the 26th. So that's in about less than 3 weeks' time. He has to go to court for a sentencing hearing in New York. And then he's got those other cases against him. So he had that. He still has this case, this civil suit against him, which is trying to bankrupt him. Big amount of, $500 million that he has been fined. So he's got that pending. And despite all of that, and then you've got the assassination attempts, he has won. He has won a historic victory.
I mean, usually saying historic victory, identifies it. This is way beyond that. This is much, much bigger than a
Right,
historic
right,
victory. Okay,
right,
this you can't even, Grover Cleveland. Okay, Grover Cleveland, he didn't want a second term, and then he changed his mind.
right.
Okay,
Yep.
Donald Trump didn't do that, and nobody knows who Grover Cleveland is anyway. I shouldn't even mentioned it. But and also, George, the wall to wall, carpet to carpet, negative
Yep.
demonization, and again these libs, they cannot learn. When you demonize Donald Trump, you demonized his following, and they couldn't figure that out. That is as plain as day to
That's
me.
right.
If
That's
you go
exactly
after him, you're going after his supporters, and they felt it
yes.
viscerally. They
That's right.
felt the
That's
assassination attempts.
that's
Okay,
right.
they felt it.
That's right.
Okay, and that's why they believe that God has a special purpose for this man.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
now,
you're absolutely
you can invoke that, and you may agree or disagree with it, but you can't deny it plays into people's thinking.
you're right. And you have this the media which just been demonizing him for all these years.
Hitler, 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 Hitler.
Exactly, fascist, fascist. This election was a complete rejection of that, a complete rejection of the media. They basically the voters told the media, you can go stuff it. We're not buying anything that you're selling. We're not just not buying it. They're not buying the Hitler thing. They're not buying that he's a racist. They're not buying, that he's a misogynist and he's going to institute a fascist dictatorship and all this nonsense. Just we're not buying it. This is a total humiliation for the media. I mean, I know that they should start, examining themselves. They're not going to do it. They always promise that they're going to do these, like after the Iraq War. Yes, yes, we promise next time we're going to be, absolutely scrupulous in the way we assess government claims. No, that never happened. And then after 2016 and Trump's victory, yeah, we definitely, we probably missed some few things, and we're going to make sure we're never going to miss those things again.
Yeah, but see, what they truly believed is that um, uh, the Democratic Party, they admit they're asleep at the wheel, asleep at the switch. Hillary was by far the best candidate. Obviously, she was one of the only worst candidate for president in my lifetime was Kamala Harris. Okay, I mean, again, again, George and I kind of invoke the Bolsheviks, but they are Bolsheviks.
Right,
The person doesn't matter. It's the position.
right,
It's the party.
right,
It's the party line. These things transcend the individual. It transcends the voter. So you install a figurehead, and they empower it with $1 billion of
right,
advertising and
right.
support and all that. Again, looking at the movie, they had a great ground game. Yeah, you did have a great ground game. You just had an awful candidate and an awful message. If you have an awful message and an awful candidate, your ground game doesn't mean anything.
Right. But I think again is very interesting. I mean, which bright spark, and I guess, the bright spark has to be
I know who it is. Go ahead.
Well, Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama. I mean, they have had an absolutely catastrophic effect on the Democratic Party. If they hadn't pursued Trump in this way of trying to put him in prison for 700 years, he might not have, been energized. His supporters might not have been as energized as they were. And then eventually, when they bundled Biden aside, and first of all, you have to raise the question: well, why didn't they do it earlier? Biden's decrepitude was apparent to everyone. But then, having done it in the way that they did it, why didn't they at least go through some process? Whereby the party can select a successor. Instead, they said, "Oh, that's it. It's going to be Harris. Everybody rally around Harris."
But ideology trumps democracy. Okay. That they did not want to take any chances. They're risk adverse. What I would turn to them, then why did you put up Kamala Harris? Okay, if you're risk adverse, okay.
Right.
No, they want to make sure it was a sure thing. And George and I, before election day, always made reference before we signed off about electioneering and machinations and all that. Trump's victory is too big to
Too big.
overcome. It's just too big.
But we should say the House is still up for grabs, and that's going to be quite an interesting one because if the Democrats do pull that off, then some of the other scenarios that we've talked about before could yet come into play. The Democrats don't look like they've learned any lessons, and if if there's still a way that they can go to deny Trump the presidency, they're going to take it. They're not going to say, well, maybe we should, you know, sit this one out. No, no, no. Boom. They said we're going to try and thwart this. We're going to try and deny him the presidency. We're not going to certify the election. They're going to do it. However unpopular this will be, they will do it. So there's still that kind of possible fly in the ointment down the road, despite this humiliation last night.
Last night was the first time in months, maybe over a year, I saw the word Antifa suddenly arise.
That's right. That's right. One should also say that
the Democrat, they're going to have the blue shirts on the streets. Okay,
right. Yeah, that exactly. That absolutely could happen. One should say that Trump had coattails. He carried the various Senate races, which some of them kind of surprised me. I mean, the one in Ohio against Sherrod Brown, I thought he would pull this off, and some of the other Senate races are still up in the air, but he could have quite a very substantial majority in the Senate. So,
well, I mean, but what we see here is that Trump outfoxed the party leadership. Okay,
right.
He did.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
I mean, if you have to look at 2022, the midterms, that was a crisis for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Big time. Big time. Mitch McConnell at war with Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay. Well, I all know who won that. That was a battle. People thought it was a war. No, that was one battle. Yesterday was a overwhelming victory in a tactical sense, and I think strategically when it comes to the party.
That's right.
Also, J.D. Vance, all things being equal, a few hours later, he's the front runner for 2028.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whereas among the Democrats, I have to think Harris, I mean, unless they insert Harris as a kind of interim president for 2 months, just to give us something, which I think, they could well do, then it's hard to see her making much of an impact. I think the party is going to blame her for this debacle. They say, hey, it was given to you on a silver platter. You blew it. So I don't see her as having much of a future in the party.
It's not impossible, but it would be one of the most petty things you could ever imagine. Okay, we made her first female president of the United States. Okay,
it's very petty, but it's something I can imagine them doing
it. Oh yeah, I do. Okay,
but
I mean, but I think Joe Biden is going to say, you stabbed me in the back. You put me into hospice care. Now you want to bury me alive.
Right.
I mean, but doing such a thing would be as much as a shenanigan in favor of Kamala Harris. It would be the humiliation of Joe Biden. They so much love. We love Joe. Okay.
I mean,
before we go into the minutia here is that this is a party that is in a tailspin. I mean, buckle up and brace for impact because George is right. They love the blame game. Okay?
They're going to do it, and one has to say that this party, it's a disgrace, and we have to go back to Russiagate. We have to go back to that hoax that they conjured up, and bringing the country to peril, the world to peril. And they did it for petty political partisan reasons. And the people who did it, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, these are the party leaders. And in a way, this is their comeuppance. This is finally the bill came due. I mean, I thought the bill would come due in 2018. I thought, how can anyone vote for a party that did something so ridiculous as this Russiagate? They didn't get punished. They won in the midterms in 2018. Then they got the presidency in 2020. Now finally, I think there is a reckoning. That these people have been an absolute catastrophe for the Democratic Party.
And so long, Barack Obama.
So long, Barack Obama.
Because his Midas touch, which even when he was in office, he had no
No,
coattails
no,
whatsoever.
not at all.
Okay.
No,
And he was, he's the one that anointed Kamala Harris early in 2020.
yeah,
And then they parachute her into the vice presidency and then anoint her as the candidate. Thanks, Barack Obama, because you gave Donald Trump an unprecedented
that's
political
right.
victory.
That's right. And
And
then
that's you. That's on you, Barack
that's on
Obama.
you. And 2016 was also a rejection of Barack Obama. So that's basically two election defeats for Barack Obama. So yeah, absolutely. So anyway, let's take a look at some of these numbers. As I say, they're kind of interesting precisely because they didn't do for Harris what she wanted. So this is the map at the moment. So this is not and it's not complete. As you can see, Trump has 277, but Michigan is still outstanding, Nevada is still outstanding, Arizona is still outstanding. So he could well end up with something like 312 electoral college votes. So it's pretty much a replica of what he did in 2016 plus Nevada.
He got 303 in.
Something, yeah, something, yeah, 306 maybe, yeah, yeah. So it's very similar, but he took everything that he took in 2016 and then plus Nevada. So that and you can see here it's very small that in terms of the popular vote, he's already got 71,244,000. So he has already 51% of the popular vote so far. So that kind of for Trump that he's very concerned about that. He wants to win that popular vote, but
Of course he does.
yeah. And then here you can see in terms of age. So this is first of all age, and then so I've got at the top you've got Harris, and then a comparison with Biden. And you can see right away that she's not doing as well as Biden in 2020. So like 18 to 29, she wins by a margin of 13%. Biden won that margin by 24%. And then 30 to 44, similar. But loses the 45 to 64, 8 points, where it was pretty much even among those with Biden, and then with 65 or older. Well, that actually she does better there than surprisingly than Biden did. So there she's even with Trump, whereas Biden lost that. And then but this is where it gets interesting. You got the marital status, and again, if you're married, Trump wins. Married people, Trump wins by 11. Not married, Harris wins. Big difference. 11 points the other one way, 15 points the other way.
Well, I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone's marital status. I'm going to be really old fashioned, old fuddy duddy when I say this here, but when I see not married, it means you probably don't have children. I could be wrong in this
Yeah,
day.
no, I think so. Yeah.
But I mean, when you have children, it's an enormous amount of responsibility.
It's a responsibility, and yeah,
And
exactly.
you got to stretch that paycheck.
You can stretch the paycheck, and you're thinking much more about the future, and then you worry a lot more about the future than you would if you're not married. I mean, because you're thinking about your children. And then here's the interesting. This is race. So here, race among whites, but here it's kind of interesting. And this is, amidst all the talk about Trump, you can see that where he's actually picking up is among minorities, not among the whites.
It's amazing how a race is going to attract so many different voters.
Exactly. So you see, among whites with Biden, he wins by 17 points. 17 points against Harris. It's only 12 points. So he's now, as you can see, that it's he's not gaining as among whites. Blacks, it's comparable, but we'll look at the black men. But look at the stunning thing about Latino. Latino, Biden wins 2-1, 65 to 32. She only wins by 8 points. So Biden won the Latino vote by 33 points. She only wins it by 8 points.
That's why I have, over the years, invoked Ronald Reagan's saying that Latinos are conservatives. They just don't know it. But he's
That's
being
right.
proved right.
Right, but it's interesting that I mean, his big issue is the wall and restrictions you can only come in legally, no illegals. That's a
I
message that's resonating
I
among
have,
the
I have
Latinos.
obviously, because where I live, I know a lot of Russians, but a lot of Russians that go to the United States and they say, as soon as they get into the country, they want the door closed
Yeah,
behind them. No more.
no
Enough
more, exactly.
in
Yeah,
America.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And,
Um,
and a lot of Latinos feel that way. I mean, these are the people that do it legally go through the steps. It's not particularly easy. It's a lot of paperwork. They take a great umbrage, just
right.
these people just walk across,
Yeah,
okay?
that's right.
And Latinos are a very successful minority group in the United States. A lot of people, brush that aside, but I mean, they're entrepreneurs. They have wealth. They can transfer their assets. I mean, this is a very successful minority group in the United States. That's one of the great promises of America.
Right.
Minority groups can get ahead. It takes time, it takes generations, but it's doable.
Yeah.
And one community that's done it.
No, that's right. And they every right to be concerned with just a mass flow of immigrants who just simply drive down wages, require a lot of government services that they don't, pay any taxes to pay for. So it's just a net drain on the country. And you can see again, among Asians, Biden won by 27. She only wins by 18. And then other racial and ethnic groups, Trump wins.
Yep.
Biden won that by 14 points. Trump won that by 10 points.
And
Uh,
nobody in the mainstream is ever going to address that issue.
exactly. So you've been calling this man a racist and a fascist all these years. Do these numbers suggest that people are buying the idea that he's a racist? Um, and then we have a region, that's obviously east, as with Biden. She went, but again, you can see that Biden did a lot better in the east than she did, and I think that's quite a stunning number. She won New York State, but she won it only by 10 points. He essentially halved the majority in New York State. So that's a big deal for a Republican to come within 10 points in New York State.
That is extraordinary.
Yeah. And then you can see here the Midwest. Trump wins the Midwest. And again, he did that. He did that again he did that against Biden as well. Then the South, pretty much the same. So, but the and then
Well,
now you have
I don't. I know they want to make it simple, but I think that they should say coastal West.
yeah,
Okay.
I know that's right. But it's true. But the West, when you use that term in America, it doesn't quite mean the coastal West. I mean, it's like Colorado is the West. Um, uh, so then you have among a religion, Protestant or the Christian. Again, Trump obviously, he wins that. But the Catholic thing is quite interesting. Because Biden still was able to tap into the Catholic vote. So you can see 52 to 47. But Trump won very comfortably the Catholic vote against Harris. And you can see the Jewish vote, they're not going to vote for Trump. As we discussed, I don't know how many times we discussed here the gaggle. Jews are not going to vote for Trump.
It's interesting. It's too bad we don't have the numbers for 2020 because I'd like to see
Yeah, I don't know why there isn't. Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to see if there was a change. But George has been going on about this for the longest time, and he's absolutely right. I mean, the 20% seems right to me.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think so.
that fits well
And
in my mind.
it is quite of an extraordinary when you think about, just they think, after all the shilling for Israel, you still only get 20%.
Well, we don't need to talk about it today because we have
Yeah,
plenty of time, but this may influence his presidency. I'll leave it at that point. Okay,
I
I'll leave
think
it
so.
there.
And I think with
Yeah, because let's be frank. Let's be really open. He likes um, um, rich Jews with their money.
yeah,
Okay, he likes that. Okay,
yes,
he's a politician for God's sake.
yeah,
But when you're on day one, you're a lame duck president. You don't need you don't need to fill those coffers
that's
anymore.
right. That's right.
And when you stop filling your coffers and you start thinking about your legacy, and Trump is going to be, he's already doing it as president-elect. He's thinking of his legacy. He's thinking of righting the mistakes that he made in his first term, which he's been quite open about. Look at Tucker Carlson. That was a really good interview with
Yeah,
Joe Rogan also. He knows his weaknesses, and he's given it's almost like Lazarus. I mean, it's like resurrection. I get to do it right this time.
yeah.
I think he truly believes that.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. And in particular, I mean, we don't have the final results in Michigan, but we do have some results from Michigan. And there are counties in Michigan where Harris came third behind Jill Stein and the Republicans. And many counties where, and this obviously absolutely was devastating for the Democrats. What's been going on in the Middle East.
Yeah,
I mean,
a
coming in
lot of
third behind
a
Stein.
lot a lot of ink is going to be spilled about Jill Stein over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Well,
um.
mission accomplished. Okay,
Yep.
good for you, Jill Stein.
Yep.
What Jill Stein is, and I don't know her platform. I didn't take any time to go look into it, but she's reminded everyone that something for something. Okay, it's my vote isn't free.
Yep.
You don't own my vote. Something for something, and
Right.
she's told people, and that will be looked upon for election cycles going
Yep.
forward. Something for something.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Michigan could well have made the difference in Michigan. Because I think Trump is going to carry Michigan. I mean, I think it's hard to see how Harris can carry it. I mean, his lead is so
Well,
overwhelming there.
George, it's the blue wall. Okay, so
It's
I
like, yeah,
mean,
exactly.
if you get 51%, that's nothing to cheer about.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
in that state.
Yeah. No, that's right.
Okay,
That's right.
okay,
And this was something that you know people had in mind, and people had in mind, and the Harris campaign had in mind. But nonetheless, basically, they here were Muslim Americans, Arab Americans. They were not going to vote for Harris. They were so disgusted with what Biden administration had done, and the idea that you could just simply come along and make a few empty platitudes about, oh, I believe in justice for the Palestinians, and that's gonna
yeah.
somehow
Well,
eliminate everything else. That ain't gonna happen.
I'm not the first to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that, we have to protect women's reproductive rights. Well, what about Palestinian women
Right.
and their reproductive
That's right.
rights?
Yeah.
Okay?
No, that's right.
That's a conversation stopper.
That's
Okay.
right.
They have nothing to say.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what do you say to genocide? There is nothing you can say. And Kamala Harris, again, something for something. Okay.
Right.
Nothing. And I'm out of here. I'm walking. And that's
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
did.
That's right. And then here we have again the gender gap, which is kind of which we can see. However, that it's a wash, because Trump wins the men's vote 10 points. She wins the female vote by 10 points. So okay, so this is you got the gender gap. With the two balance that chow. But it's you can see, however, that Biden did better among women than she did. See, Biden won the female vote by 15 points. She only won it by 10 points. So that the idea that somehow that this is going to be a big boost for the women vote, it didn't materialize. Biden did better among women than she did.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to sound like the old man that I am, but I think in most of the country, and it's been tradition, women, control the purse strings. They are the ones that have to make sure the pantry is full. You have to go shopping and all of this. And they got to think about their children. And I think when they say female, are you talking about married women? Or are you
Right.
talking about single women? Okay.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have very different lives. Okay.
yeah.
And so, for me, I'm kind of the post gender kind of guy. I really don't like talking about these things. I don't
Right.
think it matters that much.
Well, that's
Okay.
it. But it did. The point is that it didn't materialize for her
Didn't
because
come-
that's it's like the thing they did with Hillary Clinton. It's like they're doing the same thing. They tried it with Hillary Clinton. They tried it with Harris. It didn't materialize. That there'd be this huge, gain among women. You can see Biden did better among women than she did.
George, would I mind if a woman becomes president of the United States? Of course not. Would I mind if Hillary Clinton was? Yes. Would I mind if
Kamala
Kamala
Harris,
Harris was?
exactly.
Yes. Okay.
That's right. That's right. And then you have the area type. This is always very interesting. You have urban, okay, clearly Harris won, Biden won, but where, and then of course again rural, and there becomes interesting again. Rural vote, Trump won against Biden by 15. Rural vote in here is 27. So he did twice as well in the rural vote, and that's clearly very much the Republican stronghold now. This is essentially the in the rural vote, and so that they knew whatever however your failings in all the urban areas, because urban areas they're absolutely solidly
Yeah, but
Democratic. You make
look,
up for it in the rural areas.
look at Pennsylvania is probably the best test case. I think you could
Yeah,
probably throw in New York too. Is that if you look at the counties, I mean, you have archipelagos. You have these little blue dots. You
yeah,
know, the urban
right,
areas, and then it's a red sea.
right,
Okay, that,
right.
that obviously upstate New York is all red.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but when you have the boroughs of New York City, that's
Exactly.
heavy, heavy. Okay.
That's it. That's what it is, and it's true. This everywhere else. You go to Illinois, it's all Chicago. Illinois is solidly Democratic. It's only solidly Democratic because of Chicago. I mean, you take Chicago out, and it's Republican.
Well, everybody, somebody's probably it's probably already out there. I think I even saw it this afternoon. Uh, we because of the electoral college, we think in terms of states, which we should. But if you go by counties, it's a
Right,
red map with little
right,
blue dots.
right, right, right. But you can see also the suburban vote. It didn't work for Harris. Biden, 50 to 48 in the suburban vote in 2020. Trump carried the suburban vote 50 to 48. So that the big sort of suburban thing did not materialize for Harris. Now here's this very interesting. This is the abortion issue. So here, this is they're asking according to what your view of abortion is, and then how do you vote as opposed to Trump or Harris. So here we have, of those who believe that abortion should be legal in all cases, no restrictions. Harris obviously wins 88 to 10. Legal in most cases,
Mm, mm,
only very small. So
mm,
legal in most cases, she only wins by 4 points.
mm.
Biden, legal in most cases, he won by 38. So that issue, you ran with this issue, and it clearly didn't work for you. Biden did better, on that issue, legal in most cases, 68 to 30. She only won by 4 points. And then obviously illegal in most cases, that all went for Trump. Um, and but that you can see. So the abortion issue just didn't work for her. Even Biden did better in that illegal in most cases. He got 27%.
Well, I
Um,
mean, this was the canard that was often mentioned during the campaign, and I don't know what genius in the Democratic Party thought this was going to be the silver bullet. They were really
yeah,
wrong.
they were really wrong. That's really good. I mean, legal in most cases, she only wins by 4 points. So that was you were saying this is your big issue, and
yeah,
you
hang
only
on,
won. Yeah,
hang on. Let me just see here. And that's the largest amount. Well, the first two,
yeah,
33.
that's right. So obviously legal in all cases. No, in other words, no restriction. Okay, she wins that. But legal in most cases, that's just only 4 points.
Well, again, I'm maybe extrapolating, maybe too generously, but this might suggest the Dobbs decision, as unhappy as so many people are, it is kind of a consensus thing that people can live with.
Right.
Let the states take care. That might be one of the outcomes of this. That was something I was concerned about. That the Dobbs decision would be a winning ticket for the Democrats. It looks like it's turning into a dead heat.
That's right. That because it's a lot of it is just now fights in the states. But the point about this poll would suggest that people were not voting on that issue. I mean, if it's sort of only a 4 point difference on the issue of, okay, I think illegal in most cases, but of those who think they should be legal in most cases, 47% voted for Trump. So it wasn't the defining issue. I mean, otherwise they would 47% of them would not have voted for Trump. So the idea of making this about abortion somehow, oh, Trump is going to outlaw abortion, a completely ridiculous argument. It just didn't work for her. So the abortion issue just did not work for her. And then, I mean,
he's known to be a drinker, isn't it? Right? I wonder what she imbibed last night.
yes, yes, she's going to be making. She hasn't conceded, but I think she's going to be making a concession speech sometime today. And so here we got religion, among white voters. So, okay, Trump Protestant, he wins 71-27, which is almost the same as with Biden. But you can see that when it comes to the Catholic vote, Trump did better against Harris than he did against Biden. Biden was able to tap into that. And then again, we had the Jewish vote, and so
Yeah, well, Trump is just stuck around 20%.
that's right. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Now income. This is very interesting. Income, how that goes. So less than 50,000. It's kind of pretty even as between Harris and Trump. But 50,000 or more, it's in favor of Harris, 50-47. 100,000 or more, it's 53-45 for Harris. You can see how the Democratic Party is becoming the party of the wealthy. 100,000 or more income, 53-45, they voted for Harris. But among the I mean, I wish I'd had lower incomes. I don't seem to have exit polls about lower incomes. Because I'm sure among lower incomes, Trump was well ahead.
That's the professional managerial class.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And then here we have again, abortion should be legal in all cases. Again, you could see that abortion should be legal, 69-28 for Harris, but that's still 28. That's still 28% who were ready to support Trump, that it should be legal. And then again, you can see that she didn't do as well as Biden did. So that's her issue. And she didn't do as well. The margin there is 41, as to a legal 41 for Harris, but Biden had a margin there of 50. Because on this issue, she actually did worse than Biden did. And then
you and I commented on this before the polls opened, is that the Democrats will never want to resolve this because it's a cudgel that they can use. Well, it looks pretty
exactly
blunt. That's pretty blunt now.
That's right, and that's the interesting thing as to whether the Democrats will start rethinking. I have my doubts. it's just so ingrained within the Democratic Party thinking. But they have to then start thinking that, hey, this isn't working for us. We went with this
Well,
issue
here,
and it
George,
didn't work for us.
I don't want to jump too far ahead here with the punchline, but what do you bet? It was Russian meddling that
Well,
did
I
all.
think that's already popping up. The various Russia stories are lurking
They
around.
do this. I sometimes think, they do this just to drive you and I insane.
That's right. The problem that they have with the Russia narrative is they haven't laid enough of a groundwork for this to be plausible. In 2016, they kind of laid this very solid groundwork so that when they sprang the Russia hoax, then they already had a basis. You remember there was October when Clapper and Jay Johnson, the Homeland Secretary, they made their announcement. We have evidence of Russian interference in our election. So they already laid the groundwork for it. So it's going to be difficult for them. I think they will try the Russia thing, and particularly Elon Musk. They're going to try and attack.
Oh, yeah. Well, Elon Musk, he's a cat with nine lives
That's
because if George and I were having a very different conversation, Elon Musk might be reconsidering his South African citizenship.
So here we have the gender by marital status. So Trump wins married men by 20 points. He won married men by 11 points against Biden. And then married women, see, married women pretty much breaks even as between Trump and Harris. Um, and right again, and then of course, unmarried men breaks pretty even. But unmarried women, that's her constituency. Unmarried
Just,
women, she
just think
went.
about it. 10 years
Hmm,
of saying the man's a misogynist, and look at the numbers.
right, yeah, yeah. Um, but it's interesting though that even on this number of unmarried women, which you'd think that's her constituency, Biden did better. He won that constituency by 27 points. She only wins it by 23 points. So Biden's going to say, hey, you bundled me aside. I did better than you did among your constituents.
I can just see it now. The ice cream drooling down. I told you. I told you I could do better.
That's right. Unmarried women. I did better among unmarried women than you did.
Oh God. Oh, George, wouldn't you just want to be a fly in the wall at the DNC right now? Oh my.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. I
Wait,
wonder how.
in many ways, this is a bigger screw up than 2016.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so. I think so. Because this is a real screw up. Um, because okay, fair enough. They in June they decided that there was no way that Biden could win the election. And you can see why they made it. But then the question is, well, why didn't you do this earlier? They didn't do. They should have dealt with the Biden problem earlier since they knew how to do it. I mean, since they did the whole thing with the 25th Amendment. They issued that threat over the 25th Amendment, which got him out of the race. Well, why didn't they invoke the 25th Amendment earlier on? And then they could have had a competitive
Yeah,
primary.
and George is absolutely right because you're saying that in June of this year they suddenly noticed that the man has dementia. No,
Right.
they knew it all along. They knew it in 2020, okay? And what they should have done if they were had two brain cells to rub together after the 2022 midterms, that's the time you say, Joe, you said you're going to be one term.
Right.
We got to get some
Right.
new candidates out
Yeah.
here right now. We need you to be enthusiastic because we need to have a legitimate candidate. And they might have been able to pull it off. But the way they did it, it was so undemocratic, such an
Right.
affront.
Yeah.
And, maybe this will be a few seconds of sympathy for Joe Biden. You can berate me if you want. The guy did what he was supposed to
Right.
do. Okay.
Right.
You could have eased him out a little bit more with some dignity. And
Right.
instead,
Right.
He's the unfavored old man of the family, and you lock him up in a room. That's what
Right.
you've done,
That's
okay?
right.
And
Yeah.
that is it's. But these people are cruel. These
Yeah.
people are absolutely heartless and cruel.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. And did you see the body language between Obama and Biden during that the memorial service for Ethel Kennedy? That was kind of a few weeks ago, and you could see sort of Biden was this pathetic old man trying to get Obama's attention, but Obama was very brisk and kind of dismissive. I think he put his hand on Obama's arm, and Obama just sort of brushed it off. You could see right away who's the boss and who's the supplicant in that relationship. And you can say, these were the people who went into Biden and said, well, you're either going now or tomorrow we invoke the 25th Amendment. And
Yeah,
Harris was no doubt already was a part of this plot.
yeah. Well, Obama is playing the position of Deng Xiaoping,
Yeah.
still being the kingmaker and all that. But he's botched this up
Yes.
so
Absolutely.
unbelievably bad. I
Yeah.
mean, this guy can't get anything right now. He can't get anything. Talking to the brothers, okay? Wow, okay. Berating black men,
That's
okay.
right. The brothers. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
last thing black men need right now is to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
berated by a half white guy brought up by white women, okay,
That's right.
in Indonesia, okay,
That's right.
right.
In Indonesia. Yeah. The brothers. Yeah. Yeah. Um, And then there's a children under 18. Again, you can see that the margins are not really that great among women with children. Um, and then speaking of the brothers, so here we have the white men. Obviously, Trump wins white men by 20 points. He wins white women, but by a smaller margin, by 5 points. But this is the one that's really interesting. He gets 20% of the black men.
Amazing,
That means
amazing.
that's 1 in 5. That's 1 in 5 black men voted for him. That's obviously black women. Big, he doesn't do well among black women, but it's a significant. It's 1 in 5 black men vote for him, and these are the brothers, the brothers who Trump, I mean that Obama berated. Now Latino men, Trump wins. He wins among Latino men, 10 points. He wins by 10 points against Latino men. So you after all that talk about this Puerto Rican, the joke, this comedian, this insult comedian making that joke about Puerto Rico. This is really going to alienate the Latinos,
All
and
right,
he wins
George.
Latino men by 10 points.
George, I could get into a lot of trouble here, but did anybody ask Latino men? Do you think Haiti is just a garbage heap in the sea?
Puerto Rico,
I
yeah.
wonder how many would say yes. Oh, sorry, sorry. It's because Haiti has been so badly treated by Western powers for centuries. Okay, it's no wonder. Okay, I don't look at Haitians as being the problem. I look at outside interference, particularly American
Well, the
interference.
thing was that it was actually Puerto Rico. I mean, Haiti was the one he said. Remember, Haiti was the one that he called a shithole country. That was during his.
Well, how many people from Puerto Rico say that? Because that's why they moved to the United
Well,
States.
exactly. Also, the comedian was not wrong. I mean, they do have a problem with garbage. They do have a problem with garbage disposal. It's a long-standing problem. They don't have enough garbage disposal pits in Puerto Rico. So I mean, the joke. I mean, everyone immediately leapt on. Oh, he means that Puerto Ricans are garbage. That's not. He said no. They have a problem with garbage disposal in Puerto Rico. Um, but you're right. No one actually asked them. Instead, the CNN panelists, they just simply interviewed one another and said, "Oh, this is horrific. Oh, this is really shocking, disgusting."
Yep. Well, I think that, I mean, there's obviously a lot more data out there, but I will stand my ground and say it had no impact whatsoever.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, obviously but I ever say that the margin between Latino men and Latino women is quite striking. She wins Latino women by 24 points. He wins the men by 10 points. You have to say, I mean, and the same with the black men. I mean, Trump has appeal. He does have an appeal to men. I mean, whatever the machismo and everything else he has, and his love of sport, which is a genuine love of
Well,
sport, I think
I mean,
again appeals to men.
just look at popular culture, okay? Now, I'm not as exposed to it as much as people in the United States, obviously, but we could just take Netflix just as one data point.
Right.
Go through the TV series and films. I mean, men are treated are presented in the most negative
Yep.
ways,
Yep.
and some egregiously so.
Right.
And and Megyn Kelly, she rebuked Trump's organization for pushing the machismo a bit too much. Well, maybe they knew something that Megan didn't.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
is that maybe men want to feel masculine.
Yep.
It's part of our essence. Okay,
Right.
and so the joke is on you, Megyn Kelly, and the joke
Yep.
is on you, the Democratic Party,
You're
because
absolutely, yeah,
that garners votes.
you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely right. The anti male attitudes, it starts in school. It starts, with boys who are trained not to be boys. I mean, it's like, they're, trained to be, you've got to remove every vestige of masculinity from your character. And, boys don't respond well to it. They are, that's why I think there are so many problems with autism and every other issue with boys in school, why they're failing in school, why they're doing so much worse than girls in school, which didn't used to be the case. And so it goes on. And then, as you say, it's in television, it's in films, and everything is always a negative view of masculinity. And there's no right, Trump kind of breaks through that.
Okay, if you think there's too much misogyny, well, you had a choice. Tim Walz, go ahead, go for him. Is he an attractive candidate? What a buffoon pick.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's that. I
I mean,
forgot.
it's
That,
having
yes,
a little chimp on your shoulder,
that's
feeding
right.
him.
I forgot that that's going to be one of the great um, benefits of this election. We won't be hearing from Tim Walz anymore. He would just sort of disappear, and
What's going
we'll
to
forget
happen to
about him.
George? What's going to happen to Kamala Harris?
Well, I tend to think she's going to disappear. I mean, she may try to reinvent herself for 2028, but I think that this will be just a bad memory for the Democrats, and they won't want to go back to her. So I think that's yeah, I think probably go and be a lawyer or somewhere. But I think that's I can't see her having a political career.
I
Uh,
don't think Gavin Newsom will stand for it.
no, I
Okay.
don't think so. No, you're absolutely right.
Because he believes, and maybe rightfully so, that was this year was his
Yeah, right, yeah.
this round was his turn.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No, that's right. And I mean, we talked about that conversation on Pod Save America at the time of the Democratic convention when they said, well, and then he was asked, what did you think of the switch? Oh, you mean that really democratic process, that bottom up process. He obviously was very resentful about the way it was done. But that was done by the party leaders. He could say they had an option. They could have done, had some kind of a selection process. Wouldn't be that difficult. It would have taken a few weeks, but there would have been at least some kind of an input from the party as to who they wanted as the nominee. That didn't happen. Harris has just
Well,
rammed
all they
down
needed to
everyone's throat.
do, we can pick a lot of names out of the hat, but we could have Pocahontas, we could have Gavin Newsom,
Gavin Newscomb.
Newsom, maybe Klobuchar would be interested, but anyway, you could get 6 to 8 candidates
Yeah,
and
yeah,
put them
yeah,
on a stage and let them debate.
yeah, yeah.
I know who would win, Gavin Newsom. I
Yeah.
watch, yeah, I don't like Gavin Newsom. I think this guy is super cringe, okay? But he went 1-to-1 with Sean Hannity and he came out unscathed.
Yeah. 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 No,
Okay.
I agree. I agree.
No, but my point is that Kamala, you it was given to you on a silver platter. I
Yeah.
mean, you didn't have to write one word of your speeches All you had to do is to read the
Right.
teleprompter.
Right.
All you needed to do,
Yeah.
and you couldn't do.
She couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. And she went on this disastrous course. It's what it always happens when you decide to take your political advice from the editorial board of the New York Times. So the New York Times tells you, yeah, go with the issue of abortion. Oh, yeah, go with the issue of fascism. Oh, Trump is a dictator, he's a threat to democracy. Oh, well, I'll go with that. If you take your cues from the New York Times editorial board, defeat is a certainty. Like Mitt Romney. Why did Mitt Romney get absolutely trounced by Obama? Because he took his cues from the New York Times editorial board. That's the surest way to lose.
Trump said in his victory speech that he'd done 900 rallies.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
huge number, but okay, whatever, 900. You know what you learn, George? If you do even a fraction of that, you learn who the audience
yeah,
is. You
exactly.
see what they look
Yep,
like.
yep,
You see how they dress.
right.
You see how they talk. You see
Yep,
how they respond.
yep,
Okay.
yep,
And again, I have to keep saying I'm not a Trump booster. But when you press the flesh like that, you learn something. You
yep,
you, you cannot be immune
yep.
from the atmospherics that you're involved in. Kamala Harris is like Hillary Clinton. It's just like, oh, just keep them away from me,
Right,
okay?
right, right.
I want to be
Yeah,
on a nice clean stage,
that's right.
okay?
No, that's exactly right. And
Yeah,
you,
I mean, Arnold Palmer, just telling that story. I mean, it's kind of vulgar as it is, and it is, okay. But people are just laughing and backslapping, like, there he goes again, Look at the interview with um, Tucker Carlson. Now, that is about as human as you can get.
mhm,
Tucker Carlson was very, very astute in that interview. You know why, George? He hardly said a word.
yep,
He let Trump
yep,
communicate.
right.
Okay. And, Joe Rogan wanted to have Kamala Harris on. They could only do a half an hour. And
Right.
that's an affront
Yes,
to Rogan and to his audience.
right.
So,
No,
the
I agree. I agree. I mean, Trump knows, he learned how to read a room. But there's also another aspect of which is Trump, unlike Hillary Clinton, unlike Biden, unlike Kamala Harris. I mean, Trump has spent most of his life in the private sector. So, he had to deal with people. He had to, work out, how to, get on with people, how, how to overcome setbacks. If you spent all your life working for government, you basically just become arrogant. Then that basically you just simply, you treat people with contempt. And Harris, Biden, and Kamala, they all treat people with contempt, and all of them crave to be around celebrities. I mean, Harris did exactly what Hillary Clinton did, which is, oh, great, my last rally, and I'm going to have Beyonce, and I'm going to have Taylor Swift, and I'm going to have, this, that, Robert De Niro, and this movie star, and that movie star. It turns people off. People are not
I
interested in
just
that.
absolutely, I think only the blue elite is impressed by that.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it. I don't think voters are impressed by that at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, here we have Robert De Niro. Hey, dear, can you show me the receipt from the grocery mart? Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What? Okay, do you think people care if they see Robert De Niro when they're looking at the
Yeah.
check that you had to pay at
Yeah.
the grocery store?
Yeah. Yeah.
George, I have a question for you before I forget. One of the most appalling things that the Democrats did, in my opinion, and we don't know what the impact was, and I mean negative impact, is palling around with Liz Cheney in the last week of the election. We don't have any data points on that right now, but I will again bet the farm that turned off some people, at least,
Yeah.
maybe in some cases in meaningful ways. But I just think that is what the most appalling way to end your campaign with celebrities with Liz Cheney.
Yeah, I agree. I can't see that it gave.
What could be the possible upside?
No,
Okay.
I agree, and I think the measure of that, and I didn't do a slide of that, but the measure of that is the Republican vote. Is that Republican vote? Something like 96% of Republicans voted for Trump. In other words, that thesis that somehow she's going to slice off Republicans to vote for her. It didn't come about. Her vote was entirely Democratic. Republicans basically showed up for Trump. So that the whole premise of that, as along with all those never Trumpers, those neocons, and who are always on television denouncing, oh, Trump is betraying the ideals of Ronald Reagan, and so on. It didn't work at all. It was a complete failure. Republicans voted for Trump. They didn't vote for Harris. So that whole the premise of palling around with Liz Cheney failed. Failed. She didn't slice off any of that Republican vote, and probably, almost certainly, she alienated Democrats. I mean, basically, they wouldn't vote for Trump, but they just sat at home. And we could see it on election day that the numbers were not there for the Democrats. They were not showing up in the numbers they needed to prevail. Anyway, education. This is really interesting. I mean, we had the college graduates. She wins by the college graduate vote by 16 points, 57 to 41. No college degree. Trump wins by 10 points. And again, you can see she's doing worse than Biden, but particularly about on the no college degree. She loses that by 10 points. No college degree. Biden only lost that by 2 points.
George, you know who else is simultaneously looking at these charts? It's Joe Biden with Jill next to him.
I'm sure he's sitting there.
With
That's right. Exactly.
Oh, and the anger of that old man. And
Exactly.
angry old men are dangerous. Stay away from them. Okay.
You're absolutely right. Exactly. What's he doing today? I mean, he's got nothing else to do. I mean, he's not really doing any governing. I mean, so he's just sitting there going through these exit polls.
I'm not taking any calls from her.
That's exactly. Yeah. No.
Oh, just I suppose George and I do this for a living. We get an enjoyment out of it. It's intellectually stimulating. It's not for everybody, obviously, no. But the joy I feel inside watching this entire house of cards collapse in front of everyone's eyes. I mean, everyone, we put a lot of time and a lot of hours into this stuff, but sometimes it's worth it. Like right now.
I mean, it'd be very funny if Biden decides to give Barack a call, a kind of, hey, what, did you look at the exit polls? I don't think Barack is going to take his calls today.
I don't know how many people are going to be taking his call. Okay. And, everybody, I think the Biden library is dead on arrival.
I think so.
He could be the only president of the United States that doesn't have a library. Who's going to fund it?
That's a good question. Who's going to? Yeah.
Because people wanted to stay on the Barack Obama gravy train. That's why they wanted, they give him a couple mil here and there, and he builds this mausoleum to himself.
Right.
But how many people now think that was a good investment?
Yeah.
Sorry, Barack, gotta have to pull a few million out of there.
Yeah. And again, if you look at the sort of the Biden library, what are the papers what are the papers he's gonna have there? Ukraine, your brilliant policy on Ukraine, that a record of your telephone calls with Bibi, I'd like a ceasefire. Nah, I don't think so. I mean, is that's gonna be in your library?
Well, it's so interesting, George, because of the way Biden's foreign policy played out. That'll be a lasting stain on him. I mean, in all fairness, and we should save this for another time, but Donald Trump is not walking into a rosy situation here.
No. I mean, we'll talk about that. That's a separate issue.
And this is unmitigated, unforced error disaster that he's inheriting, and it's not going to be easy to deal with either Gaza or with the Ukraine, as much as
No,
Trump.
that's right. And of course, no one is talking about that. And even these exit polls, they don't really address that issue, which is foreign policy. No one's even bothering that because everyone assumes, of course, on MSNBC and CNN, the BBC, that somehow Biden was a successful foreign policy. I don't think the American people thought that. I don't think they thought. I think they looked upon the Biden presidency as failure in domestically and a failure in foreign policy, much as they did with George W. Bush in 2008. I mean, this rejection. I mean, obviously it's a rejection for Harris, but it's a rejection for Biden. Both Biden and Harris were rejected,
and Barack Obama.
and Barack Obama. Exactly. This is an overwhelming defeat. This isn't, oh, everything just hangs on this one state. No, he won every single one of the battleground states.
If we could speak miraculously with Richard Nixon right now, Nixon would say Trump ran a excellent campaign.
That's what he'd say.
He'd be very, very proud. Okay,
that's right.
Nixon was a great campaigner. Awesome.
He was a very good campaigner and a very good debater, which is people always talk about the sort of the Kennedy Nixon. Oh, Kennedy won that, which he didn't win. But Nixon was a very effective debater. He debated very effectively against Kennedy, and of course he debated very effectively against Khrushchev, which wasn't an easy thing to do in the famous kitchen debate, because Khrushchev was a kind of a tough, also a macho guy and aggressive and so on. And
yeah, well, if you fought in Stalingrad, you're tough.
You're tough, exactly. He was a tough guy. He was a man of the people, and so but Nixon held his own in that debate, which Kennedy didn't in the Vienna conference in 1961. But yeah, so he was a good debater and a brilliant campaigner. And then education by race. So this is always interesting. So white voters, college degree, Harris wins by 10 points. White voters, no degree, Trump wins by 30 points. This is just amazing. White voters, no degree, he wins by 30 points. Voters of color, college degree, obviously she wins that by 34 points. Voters of color, no degree, that's kind of comparable. So there's no.
Yeah, but let's see. This is giving attribution to education as a plus. I would say it is a negative. This shows how indoctrinated people are. Yeah. People are indoctrinated.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
This is an indictment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then again, if you the comparison with Biden, he wins that one 51-48. White votes no to 32-67. And then again, voters of color, college degree, voters of color, no degree. But again, you can see with the voters of color, college degree, and so on, that Biden was doing better among voters of color than Harris did. Again, they thought, oh, Harris is, she's a woman of color, but you can see again, woman of color, she did worse among minorities than Biden did.
George, just some kind of raw emotions here. When looking at these numbers, how Biden did better than Harris here, got to give some credit where it's due. I mean, he'd been working towards the presidency his entire life.
At the moment he was elected to the Senate, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And he went through the motions. He was like Gorbachev. He went through the Communist Party until he got to the Politburo. Yep. Kamala Harris is it. I did think for so many people is that, why are you so special? Yep. Okay, you have dark complexion.
Yep.
You come from the middle class. Well, a lot of people have dark complexion and come from
the middle class.
Okay. Yeah. And, you seem to be pole vaulted over and over again in your career. Right. I mean, Joe Biden, as a knucklehead as he is, he paid his dues at least.
Yeah, no question. Yeah.
No, I think a lot of people, maybe this is kind of an American trait, but why are you privileged?
Yeah. Right. No, that's right. And that line about the middle class, it's always going to be known as probably the most fatuous line in political history, because no one even knows what does that even mean. I grew up a middle class kid. What point do you make? I mean, if you want to say, well, I grew up dirt poor and look at me now, I'm a success. I mean, that's an obnoxious thing to say, but at least it says, hey, I'm a really successful person. I
Yeah, but
pulled
Nixon
myself up.
never said that.
No,
Nixon
exactly. Of course, he never said
never
that.
said,
But to say,
never.
well, I grew up a middle class kid, and so what does that mean? So, but you're right. I mean, Nixon was very poor.
Yeah, but see,
Yeah.
but Nixon, he didn't say those things to demand respect and affection. He
No,
did. He said those things respecting his mother.
exactly.
He
That's
said that because of his mother, not because of himself.
no, that's right. And he had a number of, I think, siblings who died in childbirth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and um, and then first year of voting, Trump wins among first year of
Hmm.
voting. Biden won among the first year of voting because he won two to
That
one. Yeah.
that is an interesting number.
That it is
First
um,
time voting.
first year of voting. Trump wins that.
Wow.
Biden won that by 2 to 1.
Wow.
And then you have age by race. So which a comparison there. Harris wins. White voters 18 to 29. Um, and then and then so yeah. So it's interesting again that again he was doing better among white voters in 2016 and 2020 than he is now. I think he's making up for that among minorities. Um, and
You know what? Again, this we need more data points here. There's been a lot of commentary about how the campaign was conducted, and if there was a podcast out there and you got Trump's people, he was on it.
yes,
He did that route,
right,
and he didn't do cable TV. I mean, he did a little bit with Fox, I suppose, but
sure,
he went digital. And Kamala Harris refused to do that. It was
right,
too many risks involved in
right,
it.
right.
But if
No,
Trump
that's
really embraced the reason I'm bringing it up because a lot of younger people would see him maybe for the first time and say, okay,
yeah,
um, because if you live in the world of corporate media, well,
right,
he's the coming of the next Hitler. But if you
yep,
see him on Joe Rogan, it's for somebody that's like 22 years old. Say, I have a beer with that guy. Why not?
right.
Why not have a beer with him?
Yeah, no, that's right. Um, and yeah, exactly. But Joe Rogan. And you got Elon Musk. I mean, people hate Elon Musk. He kind of represents a highly successful entrepreneur. I mean, obviously, I think people admire
Immigrant,
that. Yeah,
immigrant.
yeah, exactly. Um, and so yeah, yeah. So that those are some of the data. I mean, obviously, there's going to be more data that's going to emerge in the coming days, particularly as we said, when we're going to start looking at the individual states. So as I mentioned, he halved the majority in New York State. We'd have to see, what compare those with other blue states, New Jersey and so on. Again, Trump, did really well. Now, of course, as we've hinted at, and we're going to talk about it in the coming days. He's inherited a real mess. So he's going to have to deal with that, and particularly as this is one of his signature promises. It's one of his signature promises.
Well,
Once,
okay, I don't want to get too far ahead of
right,
us.
we don't want to talk, but his
No,
signature
but
promise.
this kind of a tease,
Mhm.
okay? Um, well, the Bidens and the Jake Sullivans of the world, they're not going to make Trump's
No, no,
future easy.
no,
They're they no, they these guys could go
exactly.
nuts.
And I think exactly. I think we'll talk about that
We'll
in the
save
coming
that
days.
there, but I
That's
mean,
right. I
you got
agree.
to
I think they're going to
remember
make it as difficult as possible for him.
Barack Obama laid a minefield out in
Exactly.
front of him. They're going
Exactly.
to do the same thing to Trump,
Exactly.
okay? Because
I
these people, if they can't win fair and square, they're spiteful, they're mean, they're small-minded.
yeah.
Obviously, the last 4 years of American foreign policy had nothing to do with the national interest and the middle class. is what Joe Biden said originally.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So buckle up and
Yeah,
brace for impact, 'cause they're going to
that's right.
make it really nasty for them. Well, a couple of final thoughts, George. We've already touched upon it, but the disgrace of the media, I mean, they acquitted themselves even worse, and that is saying something.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, George and I have talked endlessly about how all they do is talk to themselves. Okay. They live in this bubble of their own privilege,
Right.
and they're ideologically obsessed people, probably very unhappy people. Their wealth doesn't make them happy. I mean, it can make life easier, but it doesn't
Right.
make you happy. Okay.
No.
And so the bitterness of these people,
Right.
and there's going to be they're not going to correct themselves.
No, I don't think so. I think they're gonna, go through the motions as they did after the Iraq War, as they did after the 2016 election. Oh well, we need to pay more attention to these hidden strange people who don't vote the way we do. We really do need to listen to these oddballs, these rural people who are voting in the ways that we don't understand. But the fact is that they spent all these years denouncing Trump. He's a liar, 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 liar. Trump falsely said, Trump, baseless claims and so on. You've been doing this, and then of course, even more malevolent. He's a fascist, he's a Nazi, he's a Hitler. He wants to impose a fascist dictator. He's going to arrest people. He's going to throw them into concentration camps and all this nonsense. And you've been completely rejected, by
Yeah,
the public.
I mean, because of where I live, it's not easy for me to get the streaming services of CNN and Fox. Okay, I'm blocked, but I can watch Al Jazeera, and that's what I did when I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock. That's when things started to get interesting, and they had a panel. They had a Republican pundit and had a Democratic pundit, and the Democrat black woman, she was just going on and on, Hitler, Hitler, liar, liar, and,
Right.
and the Republican guy said, but he won.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you need to explain that.
Yeah.
They can't. They
Yeah.
can't.
No. Other than saying, oh, that means Americans are fascists. I mean, that's all they can do. I mean, they say, well, Americans are fascist, or you say that Americans are stupid. But either way, you're saying something about about your country that the people just don't particularly like, and then now they've really thoroughly discredited themselves. They anointed this woman. She was obviously from the start completely unsuitable as president. Everything we'd known about her was indicate that she was going to be a lousy president. She was not going to persuade the public that she could be a president, and they anointed her. They went through essentially a fraudulent process of claiming, oh, she's this and she's that, and she's her moment, and they made all these magazine covers, looking sort of beautiful and far-sighted and so on. This was a fraud. They perpetrated yet another fraud on the public, and the public didn't buy it. Along with all the other frauds that they've been perpetrating.
Well,
So yeah,
one interesting feature is, again, it may be very specific to the United States because the presidency of the United States is a unique position. It's not like being prime minister where you can, like the Italian. I mean, remember in the 1970s, George, they would have a new prime minister every other week. Okay, so,
right,
but because of that unique position, there is this feature that is very important: is do you see this person as presidential?
right.
Kamala Harris never could
No,
achieve that.
no, no.
Never was presidential,
Yeah.
and Trump was already president.
Yes.
So that answer,
Exactly. That's the point. That's why when you do this ridiculous stuff, and anyone could have told you, hey, you already tried this stuff in 2015, 2016, telling the public he's a fascist, he's Hitler, he's Nazi, and whatever. You tried this. It didn't work. Why would you think that it's going to work now, particularly after he's already been president for 4 years? People, if they didn't buy it 8 years ago, they're not going to buy it today. And yet they went with that, and then, whoa, that was a surprise. Yeah, you should have come up with some new arguments, and they didn't. And it's just so basically they look really ridiculous. After all that you've done, after all that you've thrown at him, He wins, basically runs the table, wins every single one of those the battleground states, every single one.
And it really makes you consider very seriously that this was the third election he won.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I mean, you have to prove me wrong.
Yeah,
You have to give me evidence now.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, it's not incumbent upon me.
yeah.
Okay, look at the numbers, everyone.
Right.
They've grown.
Yeah,
They've grown.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is? I think we already. I think we mentioned at the very top. Kamala Harris didn't do better in any county
No,
but than Joe Biden.
no,
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 in the
no,
whole
no,
country, it's a
no.
big place.
No, and not and as we spoke, even on her signature issues, the issue of abortion, and then on the issue, I think, of democracy. Democracy, we didn't come to that, but again on that issue, she didn't do well because the people who said, "Oh, democracy is a big issue for me," they kind of split fairly evenly because they said she's a threat to democracy. So half of those people thought that she was a threat to democracy. Half of them thought Trump was. So the democracy issue, which again they assumed would work for Harris, it didn't work for her. So you ran a campaign that didn't work.
What? Give me one issue that worked for her.
None,
None.
none, not none,
None.
none, none at all, none at all. And that's the proof. She did considerably worse than Biden did. And as we discussed earlier, Biden is feeling very pleased with himself today. And that's why I tend to think that they want to wipe that smirk off his face, and I think they're going to bundle him out of the door. I think they'll give her a couple of months as president.
Is devious as that is, I think it's a possibility. It really is. I think this will be their way to have their cake and eat it too.
Right.
But it will also tell you how little they think of democracy
No,
because
yeah.
this was never elected
Right.
president. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's how little this was. They tried to hang their hat on this, and
Yeah.
they will rub it in your face and say
Yes.
that we can do it anyway.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't see why
I
they
think George is right. They want to take that smirk off of Biden's face.
yeah. Because he's gonna be smirking. There's no question he's gonna be smirking, and he's gonna be joking around for the next 2 months about how he would have won and this and that. And they're
Oh,
not gonna take this kind of humiliation at his
you
hands.
got to remember and I'm not obviously a doctor, but I've spent a lot of time around elderly people in my life. And the older you get, the more filters fall away. And so he's not going to be polite. So
No.
very often, old people are very, very hard, and
Yeah.
they just say something that there's no filter anymore. They just say it, and it
Oh
can
yeah,
be
yeah. No,
hard.
no question.
And he's going to be, and they're going to keep him away from a microphone. You
That's
can,
right.
oh, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I can imagine he may even give a news conference later today, and I'm sure he's gonna let fly. And why wouldn't he? I mean, if you were in his place and this had been done to you, I mean, what you're gonna be polite about it? No, you're gonna rub their noses in it. So I wouldn't be surprised if later today he does a news conference, absolutely rubs the people like Pelosi's nose in it, and then in fury
No,
they're going to take the presidency away from him.
I don't think they'll allow him to do that. No way. No way. No way. But I mean, there is the dangling Chad, if I can use a 2000 election term. What the hell is this guy going to do until January?
Well, that's right, but that's it, and I think that they probably there's also the issue. I think they want to create, I think, a precedent of invoking the 25th Amendment, because then they might think, hey, this could be useful against Trump at some later stage. For Trump isn't really that young, so I think there's a lot of upsides for them to play the 25th Amendment card. It's never been done. It's never been invoked. So I think that why don't we do this? Get him out. We'll have this glorious moment of a first woman president. A woman president. And then Biden will be shoved out of the door. And then they will have created a precedent. For what may happen during the Trump years.
Well, if this does come to pass, it'll be the same people that grossly abused impeachment. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
George is right.
That's who
Now
they are.
they're going to grossly abuse the 25th Amendment,
Right.
which is an extreme remedy.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not if he wasn't fit to run, then why is he still in office?
Exactly. That's a very good argument. There's no answer to that argument. So, why wouldn't they? And as I'd say, well, why wouldn't they do this? And then it'll distract attention. People just the media will, of course, no longer will forget about Trump, at least for the time being, and all the attention will be on the new president. And then she can jet around in Air Force One and do do all those things.
Or maybe she could instruct the DOJ to go after Donald Trump. Okay.
Well,
It's a national security threat.
that all of that all of that.
Okay, all right, all right. There's so many things George and I still want to talk about, but we're almost done 2 hours here.
An hour and a half, yeah.
Hour and a half. Okay, some baskets here. The Blue Anon is going to start burning things down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be watching that.
Mm-hmm.
The media is not going to take responsibility for this catastrophe, so they're going to find someone to blame. They're the usual suspects out there.
Mm-hmm.
The lawfare issues are still in play.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still, I hope I'm wrong, but I still think that a lot more is going to be played out.
Mm-hmm.
They're not taking this, they're not going to take this well,
No,
George.
I think so. I think that's one thing we know about the Democrats is they're not just going to give up power. No, you want fair and square, shake hands and
Pass the
let's move
baton.
on. Yeah, exactly. They're not going to do that. Now, again, we have to see what happens in the House. If the Democrats have a majority of one in the new House, they're not going to certify Trump's election victory. They'll trigger a crisis. And then, what do they care? There's going to be a constitutional crisis that they refuse to certify Trump. So there's that. And then, of course, there's still all the riots and that they can simply unleash on America. I think that's going to happen. I think they are going to unleash this thing. Given the hysteria. I mean, you don't just unwind all of that. You called him Hitler. You called him a fascist, and that's so you're saying Hitler is now coming to power, and we're supposed to just
And you're
simply
going to let it happen? You're
exactly.
going to let it No, because Hitler was an extraordinary historical figure. The rules don't apply. See the logic here,
No,
everybody?
absolutely. That's the logic. Exactly. The rules don't apply. We have to do this. It's accepted that if ever there's a case of justified assassination, that it's Hitler. Whatever if you assassinate Hitler, then you're doing the right thing. So yeah, there's all going to be all sorts of violence. Assassination. That's still that's not beyond the realm of
Look,
possibility.
Donald Trump should have private security. So
Yeah. Yeah.
forget the Secret Service, man.
Right.
Forget that. I mean, Elon Musk got deep pockets. He can hire an army. That's what Trump's going to need.
I think so.
No joke.
I think so. Yeah.
No, because you're going to have these lone wolves out there. No,
Mhm.
Hitler's coming to power.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
need a shotgun?
Right.
I'm
And there's a
serious.
lot of people like that. A lot of people who think that, hey, it's up to me. It's up to me. I got to do it. I mean, when they listen to people like Robert De Niro talking, I mean, Robert De Niro talks violently about all the things he wants to do to Trump with physical violence. I want to punch him in the face and so on. So if you've got, people like De Niro talking like that, why wouldn't all kinds of loners and nutcases and mentally unstable? There's enough of those people around. Why wouldn't they think, hey, it's up to me? I got to save this country.
That's where we are, everyone. Okay. All right, we're going to wind this up here.
Yep.
Truly extraordinary. I did not think we were going to be having this conversation today.
Yep.
But, across the board, I mean, George did the numbers for us. Okay. I mean, this is not a fluke.
No.
This is a trend.
This was
It's not a fluke.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Viktor Orban issued his his congratulation. I wonder whether he will be the first visitor in the Trump White House. That'll be who will be the first guest to visit him.
Well, we know who Trump's point man in Europe is.
You will know his
I
point
mean,
man in Europe. Yes,
Viktor Orban from a small country,
that's right. He's now,
Eastern Europe.
he is golden. He's now, he's a,
Now he's the man. You got to kiss the ring. You got to kiss.
exactly.
Oh, he's going to like that, George.
I
Oh,
think so. It's a little country. I mean, it's a very small country. It's, hey, I'm golden. I'm the most important person now in Europe. Who else is it? I mean, Macron. You know, Keir Starmer, Sergeant Schultz. No, 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 there's obviously Viktor Orban. If he's not the first visitor in a Trump White House, I think Trump will probably hold a state banquet for him. That would be quite an
I,
honor to have a state banquet for a
I,
Hungarian prime minister.
I seriously doubt that Trump is going to take any phone calls from Europeans
Yeah,
except
I
for
think
Viktor.
so.
I wouldn't be surprised if Viktor Orban was invited to Mar-a-Lago before the
Oh, I'm
inauguration.
sure that'll happen. I'm sure that will happen. Yeah.
Oh, and both will relish in it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You do know that Macron, excuse me, Macron did send his congratulations
Yeah,
to
I
Trump.
saw that.
And
But
I bet Trump would say, "Who's that?"
exactly, and so did Keir Starmer, whose Labour Party activists came and worked for Harris. That was a good idea, boy. That was a good investment on Keir Starmer's part.
And as George and I are wrapping this up here, I have no idea if the Kremlin has sent its congratulations.
The story is that they haven't. They're not sending their congratulations. The story is that, well, since America is really pursuing a very hostile policy towards us, we're not, we don't feel like issuing any congratulations. So, that seems a reasonable position.
Well, Europe, I just hope you don't wet your pants.
Uh,
I can't think of a political elite that deserves it most. Okay.
exactly,
All right,
exactly.
everybody. Again, unprecedented. I had no idea we were going to be talking like this today. But as I just said, George showed the numbers. So, facts don't lie.
Nope.
Okay. People
No,
do,
yeah,
but
exactly.
facts don't. Okay.
That's
All right.
right.
This is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Local. So please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is an extraordinary Wednesday, but George will be back in the saddle again doing solo tomorrow.
Solo live stream Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Please join me. We're obviously going to be talking about what. And on the way out the door, thinking about this, the situation with the tip jar is now so dire that even the other hounds have to step in because the Chihuahuas have basically said, That's it. I'm washing my hands of this whole thing. So now I got to step in. So if you have a few bob in your pocket or a few bob behind the sofa cushions or anyway, just lying around doing nothing, dunk them in the tip jar. Be most appreciated. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And, we might put these ferocious hounds into a better mood. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.